I think I have the skills to initially start work on those. But whenever I want to start work, I actually started work on those as part-time. So whenever I tried, I found that it needs my full dedicated efforts, and I can't do it with my full-time job, right? So, and this thing is stopping me to start, and this is kind of a deadlock. And I think it's a common problem. Lots of people want to start something for their own, but they don't know what is the right time to leave your job. So what do you suggest?
I mean, a couple of different ideas come to my mind, to be honest. If you had asked me this a few years ago, I would have said being an entrepreneur is not a part-time job. You know, it's something that takes up your day and your night and any other extra hour that is out there if you can, borrow it from somebody else. Honestly, because if you're spending all your time, you're going to ask someone else to help you out, right? And you'll have to get them to spend some time on it too. Now, having lived in Pakistan and worked here longer and seen how people are, all the problems they face, they have to solve at the same time. I would say that there are different stages to this. When you are working on an idea, it doesn't have to be full time, obviously, because if it were, then the best people out there, the smartest people out there, would all be unemployed, right? They would all be working on their ideas and sitting at home doing that. But that tends to not be the case. Working on a concept or an idea should require basically conversation. You should be able to prototype it. Prototyping means being able to create the experience using whatever is readily available and convince someone that this is worthwhile. This is something that needs to be made. That's the first step. It's not to go out and just start building something. You have to build the prototype first. The prototype does not have to be something that you spend 80 hours on or 160 hours on or more. It can be a day's activity. And if it isn't a day's activity, then you don't know how to prototype. So you need to learn how to prototype. Now, prototyping is basically the process of creating that experience, and that's it. You could use, currently running apps to do that. You could say, okay, my app does this better, and so that's the part of prototype. It allows you to share your videos, stories with your friends, let's say, as an example. And so you could say, well, anyone can share videos today on YouTube, but how do I do it, so that it feels like it's a story, like I can give you an introduction, I can tell you more about the video at the end, and then I can have that followed in a thread. And you can prototype that on paper. You don't have to go out and build anything. So I think once you are past that initial stage of prototyping, which means that you have enough people convinced that it's a great idea, then you can go ahead and say, okay, now I need to take some risk and build it. Okay? Honestly, I feel that that is something that can be done over a weekend. Okay? It's something that you do need to be willing to give up on things you enjoy to do it. You need to be willing to say, okay, I won't eat that much. I'll come home, I'll just start working, I'll work till morning, I'll get 3 hours of sleep, and I'll continue working after that. You have to have that much passion to try this. It's not like normal work. If it were, then everyone would be a successful entrepreneur. Okay. But once you do that prototyping and you start working on this is something called the minimal viable product. You can start showing this to people and getting real feedback. At this point, if again, when it's fully built, sort of the experience is there and something people can hold and try, then you can say, okay, now I need to really focus on this and leave whatever else I'm doing. And that's basically the time you're starting your venture. Okay, so at that time you'll have to make decisions on things like, can I survive for 3 months on my own without any money? Do I have enough savings? Can I raise some money from friends? Those type of things have to be answered. Any other question? Or do you have a follow-up?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to now call upon Dr. Umar, Chairman PIDB, to say a few words.
We are very few people. I guess it just came out outside. So thank you, Murad, for coming over and giving this talk. I've known Murad for many, many years. He was in the same house I was in HCC. You were a year junior to me or 2 years to me? One. And then he became the prefect of the same house that I was. So I've known him for a long time. He was academically much better than most people at that age. He had a full college graduate from other universities and went to Stanford and was a president's scholar at Stanford. This is about the top 5 kids coming in or something as obnoxious as that. So he was the president's scholar at Stanford, which is as good as it gets. Academically very, very strong. And then worked at Apple for a few years, and then went back to Stanford for a master's in HCI. So he had all the right background for doing this kind of work. And one really wants to see such people succeed. You really want to like the minutes, you really want to see these people succeed because they've paid their dues. They've done all the right things in life. So what the last 20 years that I've known he's a superstar. He's been doing quite well. I didn't share any revenue numbers with us, so I can't say whether my wish has come true or not. But I would imagine he's doing better. This space is very exciting. This mobile game space is super exciting. Anyone of you could sort of start making mobile games. I still haven't been able to get hold of Irfan from KB Talks, but called something like what is that company called? Game View Studios. Game View Studios. This is done by Irfan. Do you know? How many you've heard of Irfan or Game View Studios?
Yeah.
Only 3 people. So Game View Studios is a company in Lahore, and he and his brother started they developed an interest in gaming, and then developed Tapfish, and then that became quite big. And they were acquired for $35 million by Dina, which is a Japanese gaming firm. So there's a company in Lahore which has done very well, and now they seem to be growing, sort of at an exponential rate. They seem to be hiring everyone in Lahore, and they're doing very well. And we think that other people could do the same. And because this mobile game space is such that if you have the right ingredients, and you are a little bit lucky, I guess that has to be part of it as well, then it could really go viral. You could really have millions of downloads from the App Store and could become quite big, both in terms of monetization of their in-app purchases and so on, but also, sort of because you could create something that's viral and successful and a larger game house can come and buy you. That's what happened to our Game Studio, because Dina came in and bought them up. So I think that this is probably our first talk in the mobile game space. We have one more coming up by Babar, who we collaborate with and work with, and his company is called Mindstorm Studios. They made the cricket game, which was then adopted by ICC as the official World Cup cricket game, made in Pakistan by someone that we know. And he's also a very, very driven entrepreneur who's making games both for the web and I guess for desktop as well, and now is I guess doing stuff in the mobile space as well. And a very, very smart guy. He also went to Stanford and something. And also this just the kind of people that we really want to see succeed. And he's going to be an expert. But I think this space is super exciting. People who in the mobile game space or mobile app space could become very successful very quickly. The guy that Murad referred to, Janzeb is also Pakistan. You can probably do a Skype session with him or a video call at some stage. Janzeb was a PhD student at CMU, Carnegie Mellon University, in speech and language systems, and someone that I've also known for many, 20 years. And when the App Store opened up, the iPhone App Store opened up, he built a small VNC client. How many of you used a VNC client? Or a remote desktop? You used a remote desktop on your Windows machine. So he started building a VNC or remote desktop client for an iPhone. And his big thing was that instead of sort of just replicating, mirroring the screen as a desktop on the iPhone itself, you somehow transmit actions and you're finished to be able to move the screen, not mirror the screen on your iPhone. And he called the application Jadu. And that became big, really big, very quickly. He had kind of 1 million users, and it's an expensive app on the iPhone, it's about $18 or something like that. So that's his revenue stream. 1 million users, $18. That's his revenue stream. and he was just by himself from a dorm at CMU, and has had all that success. And then finally did complete his PhD. So most people were dropped out at that time, but he did complete his PhD and moved to New York for a little bit, and is I think back in Silicon Valley now, and is expanding on that platform that he built. And his smart guy is sort of building lots of tools in the up. And it's basically at this point I think there are 2 people company. We got one more co-founder, that's that, and know that Mr. is doing quite well. So I think this space is exciting. So it's not just games, it's also apps. And these apps are, sort of things that you can build, and it doesn't take much to build a Jadoo app. It's now called iTelephone. I think it's called iTelephone. You can download it, try it out if you want. And then these games have been doing reasonably well. There are several companies. There is Genai Team, there is Texet, there is yourself, and there is a few others. And all done quite well. I think the simple success stories like iUmra and iHadith, Hadith on informational apps. Someone asked for apps, you could just put Hadiths online and get these downloaded on an app. So that itself has done quite well. Umar was telling me that he's had iHadith on Lebanon. It's about 70,000 downloads, and I think each download is about $1 or something. Right? So the $7,000 right there just by putting all these Hadiths online. And you could download it on for ideas. And they are similar. So I think there are lots of home local ideas that one could also make successful in a space like this. But it's an exciting space. It's a pretty cool space. So I thank you for being here. Please do come in for the next talk as well. That's by Babar, who is big time in games, especially cricket. So it's a very thought about it.